Hi everybody. So this morning I wanted to put up this quick video going over the bubble 6 from the return values because a couple of you were having a little bit of difficulty with that. So I've opened up code.org here and I've started this bubble from scratch, meaning this is what you see when you first get onto this bubble. So let's just look at the code first. So right now these first 5 lines of code are all console log statements, which means they're going to print something to the console log. Well, what are they printing? Well, we can see it down at the bottom here where it says debug console. So the first line of code there, we have a string and it says limiting 5 to the range 10 to 20, colon, and then it's adding, it says plus, and then we have a function, constrain, that takes 3 parameters. So here's our function right here, constrain. And so what that function does is it takes an input. In the case of line 1, that input is 5, then a low value, which is 10, and a high value, which is 20. So right now, this one prints out a 10, which is fine. That's what we want it to do because the 5 is low. If you look at the last one, though, console log for line 5, it says constrain 25, 10 to 20. Now the directions, what we want to print out is we don't want the input 25 to print out. We want the high value to print out. So one of 3 things is going to print, either the low if the number is lower than the low, or the high if the number is higher than the high, or the input if the number is between. So if we look down in the console log right now, the first line, limiting 5 to the range of 10 to 20, outputs 10. That's correct because 5 is below the lowest number. For the second one, where it says limiting 10 to the range of 10 to 20, outputs 10. Again, that one is fine because 10 is in the range of 10 to 20. For the third one, that one's fine too, because 15 is within the range of 10 to 20. The fourth one is fine. It's that last one that's a problem. So we really want that last one to say 20, because 25 is higher than the highest value. So let's take a look at this code and see if we can fix this here. So right now they have and if you read through the instructions too, they wanted you to create a new variable. So I'm going to create a new variable called output. And that's what I'm going to end up returning. I don't want to have all these 4 different returns in my function, because what happens with a return value is the function, when it's running, once it hits a return, it exits out of the function. So I'd really like to only have 1 here. So I'm just going to change a couple of things. Let's start with this. If the input is less than the lowest number, let's let that output get the low. So for example, if the input is 5 and the low is 10, well, 5 is less than 10. So I'm going to let the output get the value of the low. Now, instead of this being an else here, I'm going to make this an else if. And let's look at another case. Well, another thing that could happen is maybe the input is greater than the high. And so what happens if the input is higher than the high, like if 25 is outside of the range of 10 to 20? Well, now I want that output to get the value of the high. Now, this whole line of code can go away here because all I have left is this else statement. And so if the number that's input, if the input isn't lower than the low or higher than the high, let's just return the input. Or actually, nope, that's not true. Let's just let the output get the value of the input, because remember, I only want 1 return statement. And now let's return the output. And let's run this and see what happens. And there we go. Do you see how that last line where it says limiting 25 to the range of 10 to 20 now says 20? That's what it should do. And we can try a couple of others just to check. So let's look up here in the function. Why don't I make that first one? Let's constrain 55 to the range of 4 and 38, okay? Well, 55 is obviously outside of the range of 4 to 36, sorry, 4 to 36. So when I run this, that first line in the debug console should say 36 at the very end, and it does, okay? Let's try another one. I'm going to change line 2. I'm going to make that input a 1. And let's see, let's leave the 10 and the 20. Well, 1 is outside of the range of 10 to 20. It's lower than the lowest value. So if we see that in line 2, 10 is input. Now let's take a look at line 4. And I'm going to change that to an 18, which is in the range. Let me just change the range too. Let's make that 35 to like 2000. Let's make some big numbers here and see what happens, just trying all cases. So for that fourth line, 1800 should be what I see, and it is. All right, so I hope that helps, guys. Any of you that were stuck on bubble 6, I wanted to make sure you have this because, well, you're going to need to know how to do it to finish this lesson today. So good luck. Let me know if you have any questions. Bye.